Hello, this is Martin from Remote Control Bits. I'm going to start the build now. So for the first parts 1 to 9 you'll need bag A and the plastic bag 1. When you open plastic bag 1 you'll be greeted with many part trees that you'll need. What you're looking for is you just want to sort through and you want to find the ones that are going to build the front axles, which are these parts 1 to 9, which are those two sections. And you'll also find there'll be the steering knuckles for the front, parts for the rear, and then you will need this little tree that's got some parts on. So let's open bag A. Again, in bag A you'll see there are many other little bags of parts. These will all become relevant as you look through the manual. So once you've got to this stage, the next step really is to then separate the parts and lay them out as they're shown in each section on the build, and then actually carry out the build process. Okay, so if I go ahead and I'll remove all the parts and lay them out, and then we'll start assembling part 1. To do steps 1 and 2, I've opened all the relevant bags and then put the components from each bag in a separate container. It's a good idea just not to get them mixed up, and also so you don't lose parts or they roll off your workbench. Then I've laid out all the components that we're going to use for these two parts, and you'll see they're listed down this side of the page. The great thing with an axle manual is that these are all to scale, so if you see I take the first item, it actually fits on the book. So when you come down to the screws and you've got a whole tub full of screws like this, you can at least lay them on and you'll see that they are then the correct size. That's a great help. Two parts that aren't actually marked, they're only shown in the pictures, and the part numbers are written on the picture, but they're not in this left hand side. Now we just need to set 2 and actually construct the parts. You can see here I've laid the 4 components as shown in the diagram. These arrows of direction show you how to assemble it and the process to go through. You'll note that the end of this is redrawn here, so once you've put that through you'll then put the clip on, which I'll show you how to do. So take the main shaft, the pin through. You can then add the gear and you'll see that the pin will drop into the back, like so. And then we just need to install the clip on the front. These can prove to be quite fiddly, these little C-clips, so I'll try and show you as best I can. You need to get the little open section into the notches. With a pair of pliers, just going to put that clip in, like that. You can see here I've laid out the parts that I need for step 2, the first stage, and laid them in order and got my tools ready. So what I need to do, put the heavy duty diff locker in the plastic housing. There's then a small paper washer, just going to go on here, and if you look there's some pins on the back that fit into these holes, like so. And there's simply 4 I've lightly greased the ends of the dog bones that go into the locker as shown in the manual. So what I need to do now is install the large bearing on either side, and the smaller bearings actually go through the ends and there. That one in there. That's then going to drop inside the axle. Okay, step 3. There's a couple of points just to note in step 3. One is a warning that's actually on the manual. I don't know if you can see that. About making sure that the gear mesh is correctly seated. And also just to note where the grease goes, that it's saying it's round on the gears, and also the shaft of that one. That's very important. And then with these screws, they're two different sizes, and make sure that you get the short ones going through into the nut, which I've laid out here. I'm now happy all is running free. I go ahead, grease up the gears, and put the top of the axle on. So with a 2.5mm hex wrench, put the cover on. Drop into place the two long bolts, and the two small ones go in the back. You'll see on the reverse there's some recesses for these nuts to drop into, which means that there's no need for a spanner while tightening them up. It's worth just nipping them up gently so they started. And be sure to get a small section right around. What you'll need to do is take some pliers, squeeze either side, and it'll drop in place. And again, just check your orientation is correct with the manual. And tighten those up. Just be sure not to over tighten them. It's very easy to strip the plastic. Okay, move on to the next step. Steps 4 and 5, there are some advisory notes in the manual about directions for the hubs and knuckles, so do take your time on this stage just to make sure that what you're putting together is what's pictured. I've laid them out here, and I'm going to do both steps, together. So let's start with attaching the hub centres. You'll need to pinch together that end to get them on, because it'll be splayed. Pop in the screws. 2 more hex this time. Tighten them up. Just the knuckles to add now. Again, just checking the orientation of each part to make sure that you've got it correct to the manual. And you'll obviously need to make sure the ends of the dog bones go in when they should. And add the screws. Very important not to over tighten these, otherwise you'll limit the steering on the truck. And same for the other side. Line up the dog bone. It's just a case of tightening those 4 screws up. Step 6 and 7, when you look at them, will feel familiar because it's really building the beveled gears, which is very similar to the start of this axle. So I'll do that and move on to just completing the rear axle. See you in a minute. Before assembling the rear axle, I just wanted to point out 2 common errors that are made. If you look on this bevel, you can see that one of the nuts I've not completely tightened. When fitted into the axle, you'll find that that'll foul on the plastic. So it's critical to get those tight, but you'll also notice that they don't actually sit right down, so don't over tighten. It's very easy to over tighten those. So we'll just line that one in. Second point, just a note, switching the gear into the housing, very often that's not pushed right the way through. If you look at the gap, know if you can see that. If you don't do that, you'll find that this beveled gear will actually rub on the housing, so make sure that's pushed right in home. You may just use the back of a screwdriver to achieve that. Okay, I'll go ahead and assemble them and come back to show you the final axles. Now you can see the rear axle assembled and all functioning correctly. And the front one you saw us build in the previous few stages. We'll come back on the next video and I'll show you how to do the drive shafts and the shocks. Thanks for watching.